Hello, everyone, and we're back for another episode of the Justin Caviar Show. My guest today is one of my dear friends, a very special guest today. I want you guys to be really excited for this because he's one of my good friends. One of our partners in business as well is Dr. Jay Feldman. Okay. Jay is an osteopathic medical doctor, investor, serial entrepreneur, and founder of Otter PR. Yes, I'm talking about otters, the cute little animals that swim in the lakes. Otter PR. In addition to owning multi-seven-figure companies, Jay is the host of the Mentors Collective podcast and has been featured on Business Insider, Entrepreneur Magazine, and Inc.com for his success in business. Honestly, this guy is amazing. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Justin. It's fun being on the other side of this thing. Just like I feel like it was a month ago, I was interviewing you on my show, and we hit it off right away. We've got a ton in common, so I'm super excited to be here for your audience and give as much value as possible and have another great talk with you.
Yeah. And Jay, listen, man, you're a great dude. From the minute that I met you, I knew that you were a winner. Besides the fact that you're a doctor, I knew you were a winner, and then it translates into your business. And I love doing your show, so I'm glad to have you here. It's an honor to have you on this show. So let's get right into it. All right, we like to cut to the chase, no BS on this show. We know you're a doctor, but what does Jay do? Tell people what you do exactly to the root.
I hate that question, especially when you're at a party or the family's asking, like, Jay, obviously you're a doctor, but you're doing all this stuff. And the reason I hate this question is because I do so many things that I don't know how to, definitely identify myself. Obviously, saying doctor is easy. That is absolutely a part of what I do. Non-traditionally, though, I don't work in a hospital or a clinic. I probably never will. I want to serve at a much higher and at a bigger scale. But most of my days are spent, in Ian Monroe Ventures. I have several businesses with my partner, and our main one being Otter Public Relations, which is a PR firm. We serve thought leaders, we serve small business, and our goal is get them on TV, get them with a publicist, get them highly credible online publications. And, we also work on a lot of social media stuff, a lot of e-commerce stuff. We have several e-commerce brands, but it all serves my bigger purpose, which is improving healthcare access, healthcare information for the general public. And that's through my personal brand as a healthcare provider and as a medical doctor. And all of the PR stuff and the marketing stuff and the financial instruments that fund this whole thing are all serving that main bigger purpose. And that's what I love to do, brother.
Awesome, man. So let's get into it, right? Well, let's go back to the beginning. Why did you choose to become a doctor? Were you one of those kids that, walked around with the medical kit that you got, like the Fisher-Price kit, and you always wanted to be a doctor? Was it something that you decided in high school? Maybe you wanted to be a lawyer or an engineer, and you're like, you know what? I think medicine sounds good. Or was it something that you knew from the very beginning?
Definitely did not know from the very beginning. I'm also a first-generation doctor, so we didn't really have any in the family. And no, I definitely wasn't carrying around the medical kit. I actually discovered it in college. I ran into some trouble in high school, actually got in some trouble with the law, and did not get into any of the colleges that all my friends were getting into. But I was a really good volleyball player. So I got a scholarship to go play volleyball at the local Florida Gulf Coast University. You probably know it, local in Tampa. I played indoor, played beach there, and I played professionally for a long time, but was not the best student. And because of my, criminal record, which is now gone, and it wasn't anything, crazy. It was.
Don't tell anyone. Nobody's listening. I swear. This is just between me and you.
All right. I killed somebody. It was nothing bad.
We'll bleep it out.
Yeah, we'll bleep that one out. Anyways, my whole family kind of gave up on me. My friends kind of gave up on me. They went to good schools, went to do their own thing. And I ended up at this, third tier college playing volleyball without much of an academic or financial future ahead of me. And I had always been smart. I scored, top 90% on my SATs. Yeah. That wasn't the issue. But at that point, I was like, screw this. I'm going to get it together. I'm going to try and make something of myself. As a Jewish male with my grandmother, like, oh, go be a doctor, go be a plastic surgeon.
Of course. Yeah.
Decided to put my foot in the water and see if I liked it. I got a job at the local ER as a medical scribe, fell in love with it, crushed biology, and, smooth sailing from there.
Yeah.
A little bit non-traditional.
Absolutely. And looking back on your experience, right? There's a lot of people that might be listening to this that are going into medical school or, taking, they're in college and, maybe they're majoring in biology or they're majoring in something else that's related, the hard scientist, and they want to go to become an MD. Well, what's some advice that you would give someone, with your experience now being at the end, to someone that's just starting? And, would you tell them, listen, don't get too excited because this is where it really starts to get hard? Or would you have a different tone about it?
No, so I love everything that I learned. I'm so appreciative for the medical knowledge and for my years of medical school and training to get into medical school. But now looking back at it and, really having an identity for myself and knowing who I am, I was never a fit in with the medical community. Those are not my people. And I strongly believe that every profession and even every subspecialty within medicine has a prototype of the person that fits within that frame. Yeah. And medicine was never my frame. I am an entrepreneur at heart. I always have been. Before I started medical school, I had started 2 companies. Through medical school, I started 2 more, and pretty much took my 4th year of medical school off to do business full time. That's who I am. And knowing, if I would have known that back then, I probably would have made some different choices. Right. But now I have the fortune of having all this medical knowledge, understanding how the system works, understanding where it's broken, and how I can apply now my entrepreneurial and business knowledge to have the biggest impact possible in that world.
Yeah. So let's get into that. So what do you see that maybe one of the biggest disagreements that you have with the way things are going in the medical field that you might not agree with? What's the biggest misconceptions that you see nowadays?
Biggest misconception going into medicine for people who are aspiring doctors, I think, is that it's going to be like it is on TV and most of your time is going to be spent treating patients.
Wait, it's not going to be like Grey's Anatomy?
It's not Grey's Anatomy. It's not House. It's not Good Doctor. It is.
Yeah. It's not Private Practice.
No, any of those shows. And the shows are so funny because they make being a doctor look fun. Yeah. And sometimes it is. I had some of the greatest times of my life learning procedures, like bonding with patients. But that's like 5 to 10% of the job. The other 90% of the job is spent in front of a computer, walking around the hospital with your team and documenting and getting yelled at for your documenting. And I'm the kind of person who just puts out information really quickly. I have ideas. I get the ideas out there. I clean up later. So them looking, oh, you have to document that little thing because you're reliable and we're going to get sued. That's so much of what being a doctor is like. And that's part of the reason that it's broken. We don't have time to spend with our patients, talking to them, educating them, creating those relationships. It's quick in and out so you can spend the time documenting. And that's one of the many fundamental problems and one of the reasons that I will never be a clinical doctor.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm curious to ask you, right? What do you think the problem is with corporate, like people that own hospitals and like corporations, that it's just dollar signs versus the people that are in medicine that truly care about helping people and curing people? What's the disconnect? Because obviously, like the corporations want to make money. They don't really care about the science. They're just like, they would do construction if it made more money, right? So what's the misconception? And what do a lot of people in the medical field run into that the corporations kind of like halt the brakes because it might not equal to the maximum ROI?
So that's the biggest factor standing in the way from fixing healthcare, not just the hospital administrators who are, run the hospital, but the pharmaceutical industry and everybody involved between. They dictate the algorithms. They dictate what treatments you can use and when. Insurance companies dictates what treatments you can use and when. They profit the most when people stay sick, come back, and continue to seek treatment. And that's why I think primary care is broken. Primary care is supposed to happen before people are sick. That's why it's primary. But that's not the case anymore. And I want to get to people before they're sick. And that's going to be my goal. And I think in order to fix the healthcare system, back to your question about the bottom line, the ROI, what's standing in the way, you're absolutely right. And it's not one thing. It's a whole system that's been built around profits instead of people not getting sick. Because people don't get sick, no one makes money. And that's a big problem for the whole system, and especially pharmaceutical industry. there's a lot of treatments out there, ozone therapy, autotransplantation of T cells, things that people haven't even heard of because they're basically free to create and administer, but there's no money to be made because there's no
Cha-ching. I wish I had a cha-ching button. I need to get a soundboard.
Exactly. And that's a whole conversation, we could do a whole series on that thing. But my goal is to build the whole thing out of the water.
How do we fix that? Like, I feel like these are like hardwired and cemented in stone because it's been like the traditional way and for decades and decades and decades. Well, how do we fix that? Like, it's kind of like you're going up against giants.
There's no good answer for that. And it's like a big corporation trying to go from brick and mortar to online. Steering a big ship is hard. Big ships take a long time to move. We're talking about potentially the biggest ship in history, the whole medical industry and healthcare industry.
It's going to take decades.
It's going to take a lot of exposure. It's going to take people demanding change. It's going to take a lot of things in the middle to put the right pieces in place, such as, hopefully people like me exposing a lot of this stuff and offering alternatives. And then a lot of regulatory bodies saying, we have to start demanding this out of our pharmaceutical industry, out of our hospital administrators, because, people know. And that's the only way forward. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime. I hope it does, but you know better than anyone that the dollar sign usually rules. And
money talks. Sometimes people. Sometimes you can have all the evidence that this is more profitable, but they don't want to change the system because they're stuck in their ways. And depending on like how desperate they are, obviously, right? Because if you have someone that needs money, they'll throw their pride out the window. They need it. They need the money, right? Yeah. But we're talking about rich corporations that don't necessarily need the money. Now, don't get me wrong; they're definitely money hungry, which they should because they're a business. But at the same time, profits don't necessarily mean change because people, they hold on to their ideologies and the traditional way. So it's not like a black and white answer. And I agree with you. It's kind of like one of those fine lines where, how do we fix this? And it's just like you said, it's a giant ship that you're trying to steer and move. And if anyone's been on a cruise ship, double that by like 30. And that's this ship we're talking about. So I understand. Yeah, man, that's interesting. So the last thing I'll talk about medicine, then we can move on to Otter and all the stuff that you're doing currently, is what were some of the things that in medicine, the medical field and medical school and, residency and stuff, and the people that you were around and maybe like senior doctors and maybe like MPs or PAs, what were some of the things that you learned in medicine that you like was your biggest takeaway that you implement into your business now as an entrepreneur?
So the biggest thing that I learned while I was in my medical training and residency and everything, from that point is how I'm applying it going forward in business is what I'm doing now. It's information. I realized that people don't have the right information. They don't have access to the right treatments, and that primary care is broken. I don't think necessarily that empathy. I'm going to cut back. I'm going to say empathy. Yeah. As an entrepreneur and as a business person, you don't get much time one-on-one with people where you're really benefiting from leveling with them, from talking to them a specific way to get a desired result from them. And with a lot of the patients that I talk to, if you talk to them like a business owner, like a boss, they've proven that doesn't work. You need to take your medicine or you're going to die. They don't respond to that. What they respond to is the gentle coming down, sitting down on the bed, getting eye level with them. And I've realized that as a boss,
personable.
Exactly. You can't talk down to your employees and try to get the results that you want. The best thing is to make them feel connected with you, like you care, and then they're going to be incentivized intrinsically to get the level of work up to what you want. So the biggest thing that I learned there was communication, and I think that gave me a lot of also sales ability that a lot of people don't have. Because that's huge in sales too. You have to relate to them. You have to make them feel level. And that's huge in medicine, especially for NPs, especially for PAs, especially for nurses. You want to get a desired result, level with the patient, no matter how sick they are, no matter how old they are, no matter how poor they are, level with them.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So let's segment over to Otter and the stuff that you're doing now. right? Tell people a little bit what you do right now at the moment, entrepreneur-wise.
So entrepreneur-wise, the main venture, of course, is Otter PR. We're just opening our second office right now in St. Pete. Going to be right next to you. And we're a team of about 35. We've got publicists, we've got writers, we've got a whole marketing division. And what we do is we help people who are subject matter experts, thought leaders, and also small businesses and some bigger corporations with a broad spectrum of media needs. We do podcast booking, we do TV booking, we do speaker booking, we do a lot of online. A lot of our internal staff write for popular online publications. I'm now an entrepreneur contributor, which I'm super excited about. Inc and Forbes to come. And a lot of our staff does the exact same thing. And we work on getting clients organic media exposure as well as media buying. Because obviously PR comes in a couple of different forms. You can pay for it or you can pitch it. We do both. The primary focus is on organic.
Gotcha. Cool. And how did you get into PR? Like, how did Otter come to be Otter?
Sure. So through my personal brand, I had some issues in the media. And before this, I had run a marketing agency. So I knew a little bit about PR. But through my own issues in the media and through a friend's issues in the media, I took a pretty deep dive into how to react, respond, and SEO optimize, and for my own needs, for my personal self and for my friend. Yeah. And through that research, through calling experts, through working with other agencies, again, for myself, for my friend on both personal branding and fixing some things, I became somewhat of an expert, especially with my history in marketing. So I basically dragged my business partner through the mud for 2 months saying, this is a good idea. We're going to build a PR agency. You're on board. And he was like, all right, like you do the groundwork. I'm in. And it was born like 4 months before the pandemic. And it was a very interesting time after that, that we were able to grow and scale through like the worst economic time in our generation. And, from there, it was smooth sailing. We were able to hire a lot of amazing talent that lost their jobs in PR through the pandemic, because that was always the first thing to go. You fire the PR team, save some marketing dollars. So we hired them up and built an amazing team here. And now it's been a great journey, and we love our clients. We love our team. We love what we do.
Yeah, that's interesting, because if you think about it, right, sometimes a lot of the worst situations in life open up opportunity. And with Otter, that's a perfect example of, coronavirus comes and everyone's freaking out, everything's shut down. People are trying, now we're in survival mode. We're not in prosperity mode. So now that we're in survival mode, it's like, okay, how can we cut everything else except for like what we absolutely need? And that's obviously, unfortunate. Maybe some people had to do it. Maybe some people chose to do it to save more money. Maybe some people had no choice. But bottom line is that you were the type of person to see it as like an opportunist and say, wow, these high level individuals, as far as publicists, they're available now. And they might not have been available in 2019 or 2018, 2017, because they were working for maybe big corporations, big PR firms that, work in Hollywood or New York. And I think that's a good point that, even in the worst times, those times are definitely bad and it comes with a lot of negative side effects, but there's a lot of opportunity for growth in those times, because now those things were not available. Now they are. And I've seen that with a lot of businesses too. People that went through with online marketing had the biggest years in 2020, and everyone was on Zoom and all this stuff. But the biggest thing, instead of freaking out, they took it as being opportunistic, and they took it. And I remember in 2020, we did really, really well. But one of the biggest things was I talked to two types of clients. I talked to one where everything was going great and prosper and flowers and daisies and all this shit. And then we had the other person was like, 2020, COVID, locked in my house, coronavirus, and it was like two types of people. And it's all in the mind. It's a mindset, right? Yeah, it's not perfect life. And nobody expects this. Nobody wants to be locked in their house. Let's face it, right? We want to be out. We want to be talking to people, giving people hugs and kissing people and shit, right? That's what we want. We're humans. We need to connect. But that doesn't mean that in those bad times, you're going to get once in a lifetime opportunity, just like with real estate. In 2008, real estate crashed. There was a lot of real estate millionaires that grew from 2008. Why? Because houses that were 150 grand, especially here in Florida, 150 grand, now they were selling at the courthouse because the banks was trying to get rid of them for $25,000. And I knew people that were buying dozens of houses for 25 grand. And then 4 years ago, prior to 2008, those houses were going for 150 grand. And now they're back up. So the bad times are bad. I'm not saying they're bad. And, unfortunately, not everyone's in the same situation. But you got to look at the bad times as opportunity, because that's where the millionaires are born, is the bad times and the opportunists. And I think that's a big part of what you did with Otter. And now, we're seeing the result.
Brother, you're absolutely right. And it's not just bad economic times. I was going through rough personal times, and they all happened kind of at a similar time.
Yeah.
And now looking back at it, it was such a blessing in disguise. And it's hard to see that blessing and see the silver lining sometimes until 6 months, 1 year, 5 years down the road. But you're absolutely right. When these hard times hit, you really have to look at it as, how can I take advantage of this to the max right now? Yeah. We were locked in our apartments, me and my business partner, with almost with nothing. And we worked our butts off 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, sitting right across from each other, building this thing and investing in a market that was 60% down. We built our initial fortunes during this time. And a lot of people were sitting at home playing video games, watching Netflix series, waiting for the time to pass.
Watching Tiger King.
Yeah, watching Tiger King and everything else that was happening.
Hey, by all means, Tiger King was pretty good, but
I saw the first 2 episodes. I couldn't.
Really?
Yeah. But I think, having him there too, watching each other work, like, are you working? I'm working. Are you working? And
yeah.
That was a cool scenario. But if it weren't for that, we probably wouldn't have been able to build what we built now. Like, now we're busy. Now there's plans. We're going out on the weekends. That was just freaking grind mode, hardcore grind mode for like an entire year. And looking back at the whole thing, it was a nightmare of a year. It's probably the worst year personally and like for my mental health and history. But what came out of that year was absolutely freaking magical.
That's incredible, man. That's really incredible. And I see that. But what would you say, because you're one of the leading experts in your field and you guys have built this amazing business and, 7-figure plus business. What would you say to someone that, might be at a dead end with their life personally, because you have experience in that, and also business wise? What would you say to that person that, they're kind of like, maybe they don't believe anymore, man. They're down and out, and they're just trying to get by. And after they work their full job, they don't have any money that's saved up. They don't have any money to do anything. They can't even go to Dave & Buster's and play arcade hoops, right? All they're doing is paying their bills, eating, surviving. And again, not in prosper mode. We're in survival mode. What would you tell to someone that has just like multiple negative things happen to them, and they're just like, they're at a split road, and they're just like, man, I don't know what to do. What would you say? Because you've been there, and now seeing you now, it's really easy to point the finger and be like, it's good to be Jay, but Jay wasn't always Jay, right? What would you tell that person?
So I'll tell them there's more hope nowadays in 2021 and this decade than there ever has been. And there's so much opportunity, and it's so easy to learn a new skill and monetize that skill. And entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Running a business, starting a business, growing a business is a roller coaster of a ride. And if you are emotionally unstable and unable to handle the downs of that roller coaster, then it's not for you. That does not mean that you can't be an independent entrepreneur. There's so many ways to make money by monetizing the skills that you can learn online. Web development. When I was going through some of these times, I knew I was really good at making websites. I made websites for people on Fiverr and Upwork, and some friends made a couple grand here and there. That's something that I learned on YouTube, just practicing building WordPress websites, using templates and things like that. Writing is another great one. There's so many skills that you can monetize, especially in the marketing world, that, if you're having a hard time, maybe you lost your job or you're struggling to make ends meet, and you just maybe want a little more to save up to invest, learn one of these high value skills. Writing, web design, video editing is a big one, audio engineering. All of these things can be learned for free online, monetized online. You can get on one of these platforms like Fiverr, like Upwork. You can go on social media and send DMs to people. And so much opportunity now that was not there for our parents. Building an online business, our parents couldn't do that. They couldn't dream of that. If they weren't born into a company, life was hard. They had to go get the 9 to 5. You're not trapped. If you're listening and you are fired, or you're having a hard time making ends meet. There's so many resources available to you online, YouTube, LinkedIn Learning. I still use all of these things. I don't even read anymore. I just take courses. I freaking love courses. I love learning new skills. It's all there for you. And you've got this.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, because a lot of times people, they'll say, well, I don't have any skills. I don't have an education. I don't, I work at, XYZ, doesn't matter. I don't have any skills. It's easy for you, Jay. You're a doctor. You're smart. You have a huge 7-figure business. Easy for you to say, in your ivory tower. But I think it's important for you to tell that story, because listen, guys, there's no excuse. If you need money and you need to make ends meet, like Jay said, there really is no excuse. You can't say you're not educated. You can't say you don't have any skills. We have a thing called YouTube. We have a thing called Google. You type in and you look up a skill. And just like he said, video editing, Fiverr, Upwork, what is it, Canva? Is that it?
Yeah,
where you go and you do design?
Canva.
Yeah, I have a designer. She uses Canva and I pay her, right? So that could be your money. So someone's out there looking for design and video editing and all these things, and they're very simple skills that you can learn on YouTube that people that do have successful businesses are not going to waste their time doing. So that's good. That means you can make that money. I think that's important, man. So what are some of the correlations between working with people in the hospital and working with people at Otter PR, employees that now you're paying them, versus like what experience did you take from being in residency, working with people in the hospital, the chaotic mess, and people are dying, people are hurt, and in and out of the ER. What are some of the correlations that you took from working with the NPs and the PAs and the nurses and everyone, and now you see that with your employees now that you pay their bills?
So the only correlation that I can put together, because working as a learner in the hospital system and now being a manager, a boss at a company, are as far opposites as I can possibly tell you. The only similarities that I can think of right now off the top of my head is putting out fires. And as a doctor, you're always putting out fires. There's always someone coding. There's always someone with an electrolyte imbalance that you need to go attend to really quickly, or something horrible is going to happen. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, as an owner, all the fires rise to you. There's nobody else on your team that is going to handle the pending lawsuit, or handle the payment dispute, or the customer who keeps calling who's angry, which that doesn't happen very often for other people listening. It's like, Otter sucks. Everyone's complaining and filing disputes. No, but as an entrepreneur and you're doing business with hundreds of people, sometimes some things slip under the rug. Sometimes people get unreasonable. That happens all of the time. And it all piles onto you. You're the last one. You're the one handling putting out the fires, and that's part of the job. And like I said, entrepreneurship's not for everyone. If you don't want to be a professional firefighter every day, probably not for you.
Yeah. What would you say to a firefighter that heard that comment? What do you think you would say to that?
Depends on how cool the firefighter is. She's like, yeah, man, I don't want to put out those kind of fires. I'll stick to my fires.
I don't want to put out mental fires. I want to put out physical fires.
I mean, I'm not running into a building, a burning building, and shooting it down. Props to anyone who will, but our fires are rough too in their own way. They're mental fires. They're emotional fires. And sometimes I go to bed at night just like, man, that was a taxing day. That took a lot out of me, dealing with that.
Yeah, and just so you know, guys, that Otter PR does not get multiple disputes and lawsuits. Like, they're a highly reputable company that we over here at Media Lab Solutions, we use Otter for a lot of partnerships and a lot of their services as well. They're a great partner and they're a great company.
We actually haven't had a dispute in 5 months. Absolutely amazing.
Let's go. Where's that soundboard? Ding, 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 ding.
I have a bell.
Hold on, wait. Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
It's our old sales bell. Yeah, no disputes in a while. The only lawsuit
I need to get a bong. I need to get one of those.
You should see the one we have in our office. Oh man.
And the St. Pete office, I got to come down because we're right across the bridge. I'm going to come over to the office, hang out one day.
Yeah, hell yeah. Come work with us. Set up a desk. We'll come visit you in Tampa as well.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I all the fires are different. It's always a different thing. Disputes was a thing back in the day. We handled that, fixed all of those holes, and that's what it is too. Sometimes you grow faster than you can scale, and that's when you start hitting some problems. And that's something that we learned.
Yeah,
early
that's
on.
a big thing. Yep.
It is. You got to grow and scale at the same time. It's better to grow slow than it is to try and keep up with the growth, with the scaling and the hiring, and then you're just it's a mess.
Because then you get to the point where now you're only focused on the next sale. And that becomes a problem because you have a whole band of people that just paid you. And now they're like, okay, what's up? Where are you? And when you get in that mindset, you're only focused on the next sale. And I see so many companies fall into this trap of, I guess you could say greed, right? For lack of a better term, and always looking for what's next, right? And that's kind of like a normal psychological tendency as humans that we have. It's always what's I got a Lamborghini, but my neighbor has a Bugatti, so I'm not good enough. Oh, I have a Bugatti, but I only have one Bugatti, and my other neighbor has two Bugattis, a Pagani, and a private jet. Oh man, and then the other guy has a $200 million yacht. It never ends, right? So you gotta. I totally agree with you. Like, grow. Everybody wants to grow fast, right? In the gym, you want to get big, you want to get jacked, and with money, you want to have a ton of money to buy cars and impress people. I get it, but the bad thing is you will run into these giant traps, and now you're going to be like, oh shit, when rubber meets the road, you're going to come back and like, oh man, we gotta clean this up. And you're putting out fires.
And the biggest trap is, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner who now builds something, and you have people that want to sign up with you. It's so hard to say no to new business when somebody wants to sign up. It's so hard, and that is the ultimate trap. You have to be able to say, listen, we're going to put you on a wait list. I'm so sorry. We really want to serve you at the highest level, the level that we want to serve you, that meets our mission. Yep. But it's so hard to do. And that's something we learned until a year in, and that caused us a lot of problems and pain.
Yeah. Yeah, not every client is the ideal client, and you could see all the red flags. It's like relationships, right? The person's real attractive, but they have all these red flags, but you totally ignore those, and you only take the highlights because you're attracted to this person, but they're that this is never going to be a long-term thing, but you don't care in the moment because you're so in this state of delusion because she's so attractive or he's so attractive, whatever you're into. But the thing is like, I totally agree with you that you can't just take the cheap sales, and you have to be aware and identify, oh, this person has unrealistic expectations and I cannot facilitate that. So that means that I'm not going to be able to take you on. And you got to be upfront. You got to be transparent with your clients. A lot of people, they'll just say, yes, just take the money because we need it. We got to pay bills. We're a startup. You're counting your like personal bank account. Then you look in your business bank account and you're like comparing, and you're like, oh, I got all this shit coming up. Yeah, just take the money. We'll figure it out. And a lot of people fall into that trapping. So I'm glad that you said that you have experience in that. And now because you have that experience and you have that knowledge, and you now are at a bigger state where you don't have to take on everyone, right?
Yeah. And now we have systems in place to identify those red flags early. We do a 30, 60, 90-day plan, which our clients have to sign after coming on board. They don't want to sign the plan, red flag. And we've tried this. Like, oh, it's okay. You don't have to sign the plan this time. Like, just come on, do business with us. We'll see how it goes. 9 out of 10 times, that client is going to come bite you in the ass.
100%.
You have to figure out how to identify those red flags and then cut off the cancer before it spreads.
That's so crucial. It's funny going back to medicine and correlating them with business. It's funny.
The medical analogies, love them.
Well, going back to my other question, right, is you're putting out fires and there's always something, right? But I want to take it even like a step further that most people don't even realize, maybe in the hospitals working or really anything. What were some of the human to human interactions that you saw from like maybe an MD to a nurse? And obviously nothing's perfect, right? Some surgeons are not so nice, some surgeons are really nice, most of them not really. That's what I heard. I don't know, it's not me, I just heard. But working in the hospital and seeing like a wide variety of people, right? Like elite surgeons, and then like first year residency guy, and that guy's getting told what to do, and maybe they're not doing it in the most polite way. And you're a smart guy. I know you pick up on these things, and you go into the break room and you hear the complaints. What were some of those things that you extracted, and now you treat your employees completely different, or your clients, because you have that from medicine?
Sure. And you name two different people in a hospital, I'll tell you how that interaction is most likely going to go. And like you said, not every surgeon is cut out the same, although there's a lot of similarities. You talk about neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons. They're probably going to be dicks to the nurses. Not all of them. Some of them are super nice. And you talk about the family medicine doctor. They're usually going to be more well-mannered, more empathetic. And I'm probably not the best person to talk about being mistreated in a hospital. I'm a tall white male who looks his age. I went to residency with a lot of people who weren't so fortunate, a lot of smaller, younger looking females who were called nurses, not treated as a doctor, with Black residents who went into a patient's room and got kicked out, were talked down to by some of the older surgeons. And I witnessed all of these things. They happen. It's not just the hospital. These things happen, I'm sure, in every workplace imaginable. These stereotypes that the young girl can't be a doctor or shouldn't be a doctor, that the Black co-resident who's done everything that I've done doesn't deserve the same level of respect. It's the society that we live in. I'm sure it's contiguous across multiple different categories. I've been witness to a lot of it. Fortunately, I haven't been the victim of much of it, but it is scary and sad to watch and that people go through. And if you look in my office, and I just did a podcast a couple of days ago, he called my office a rainbow of personality. And that's what it is. We have gays, we have Latinos, we have Blacks, we have Asians, we have 70-year-old women, we have people straight out of college. And we do that on purpose. People from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different socioeconomic status. They bring a lot of new ideas to the table, different perspectives. And a lot of businesses look at diversity as a weakness. They don't want to hire, certain demographics because they don't think they might work as hard or they're as smart. But I completely disagree. I think it's a major strength. It's a reason why we've succeeded, because we do have all of those ideas, all of those perspectives, all those people in one room that have a great time. We're all friends, and it makes us stronger for it.
Yeah, I think you touched on some good points, because when you have people that come from, different cultures, different ideologies, different countries, different continents, they're going to have a different perspective on life. And when you bring that together, it's a melting pot of creativity. How do we fix that in that field, right? How do women get respect that they deserve, because they're doing the same thing, maybe even more than men, but they're not looked at as a true doctor because they're female? It doesn't make any sense, because on paper they have the same attributes, maybe even better. How do women and other minorities, how do we fix this? How do they get the respect that they deserve?
Yeah, this is I guess part of a much bigger question, which is, how do we fix stereotypes? How do we fix racism? How do we fix sexism? How do we fix gender wage gap? It's all the same question. And to be honest, I think we're heading in the right direction. I mean, if we're talking about our parents' generation, things were much different. The lay of the land was much different. Compare that to now, I think we're making a lot of progress. Obviously, anything less than equal is unacceptable. We should never rest at where we are now. But I do think we're making progress. I think, the women's rights movements, the feminist movement has made a lot of great progress. I think we're seeing more Black doctors. We're seeing more female doctors. We're seeing more Latina doctors. They're even given preference in a lot of medical schools, which I totally agree with, especially the ones coming out of these lower socioeconomic situations, because they bring a fresh perspective to medicine that we wouldn't have otherwise. And they didn't have a lot of the same opportunity growing up. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but I don't have if there was an answer on how to fix it, we would know it. There is none. It's multifaceted.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables in the equation. Actually, I heard a fact from someone that there's more female MDs now than males. Is that true?
Not a clue. I haven't heard that fact. I will say that.
Never mind, guys.
In my residency program, that was the case. Okay. In medical school, that was not the case.
Okay.
I imagine if you count all the older generation of doctors, it's not the case.
With the older generation. I'm talking about the new generation.
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on my personal experience, I don't know the data, but I absolutely believe it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Hopefully we can change that, because, I have a lot of female, personal relationships. And, my girl, she's in the medical field, and I've never seen anybody work harder than her.
What I would love to see is more females in entrepreneurship and business. And
yeah,
I know
that's a good segue. That's a good segue. We moved into careers now. There's a lot of women in medicine. A lot of women are starting to get the respect. It's not equal by any means, but at least we're making some progress, right? We're like at 10% versus 100, but versus where we came from, which was like 0.01%, right? Now, I think you brought up a good point with entrepreneurship. How do we fix that? Because we all hear like the good stories of Sarah Blakely, with Spanx and multi-billionaire, billion-dollar company, and she's a billionaire. And what do you think it is? Do you think it's just like the way they grow up, that they're told you need to go to college and have a career and be like one of the main three, right? Like engineer, law, or medicine. Do you think that's the case, or do you think maybe men are more prone to taking risks?
So I think some of it's biologic, sure. I think it takes a certain amount of risk-taking ability, and also a certain amount of ego, I think, is a part of it. And I think women aren't raised, or maybe it's biologic, I don't know, nature versus nurture, with the same level of ego. I think starting your own business, taking that risk, believing in yourself that much does require some ego. I don't think there's any way around it. Yeah. I think that's the biggest difference between men and women going into business. I really do. There's so much support now for female entrepreneurs. There's grants, there's groups, there's female-owned business Facebook groups for it, where they can connect with each other and network and grow. You don't have that with, I guess the argument was the rest of it is male Facebook groups and stuff like that. But I think the biggest difference, and the thing that we're going to have to address to increase the female presence in business, is ego, whether that happens early or what. But I think that's going to be it, man.
And that's hard because males are very dominant when it comes to ego. Like women, most of the time, women are not egotistical, but there's a lot of stubborn, egotistical men. I feel like women in general are more logical. With my employees, in my experience, some of my my buddies' employees, that they have big companies, and some other people that are head in corporations. It's a night and day difference. When you have a bunch of dudes working in the office, there's papers everywhere, there's shit all over the floor. It's a complete mess. You're like, did you send that email to Todd? No. Oh, I forgot, dude. Like, I went to lunch, bro. When it's all women, it's like super clean, organized, everything's sent exactly when. Everything's like, okay, we do this. It's a more analytical. So in my opinion, I think, guys, don't get mad at me, but I think, females are, I think they're better entrepreneurs. I think they're better hardwired to be an entrepreneur than men. I think men are just so, for lack of a better term, kind of, I guess you could say dumb, that they're just like, fuck it, let's risk it, and we all know you got to risk it to eat the biscuit. So,
I totally agree with you. You put a female-owned marketing agency and a male-owned marketing agency.
Oh, night and day.
Night and day. I'm going with female every time.
Every time, because you know why? When I have a female marketer, those emails are going to be written perfect, no typos. They're going to be sent on time. Not only are they going to send it, but they're going to have the paperwork following up to do everything lined up. You get a dude in there, especially like a bro, he's going to be like, yeah, man, I'll send it like in a couple hours, but we're going to go to happy hour and stuff. That's never the case. So in my experience, I think women, to be honest, and again, guys, don't get mad at me, I think women are more prone to be entrepreneurs logically and analytically than men are. I think just men are kind of so stubborn and delusional that we just take more risks because we don't see the downside.
I also think the problem there with the female marketer and the male marketer is the male marketer's got the confidence to pick up the phone and sell himself. He's like, you got to hire us. We're the best. Here's how much we charge. Whereas the woman, and obviously this isn't true for everyone, this isn't a blanket statement, doesn't necessarily always have the confidence to believe in themselves as much as they probably should. They're always doubting them. They doubt themselves more. Don't have lower self-worth for whatever reason. And I think it's an ego thing, and I think it's misplaced. And I think in order to fix it, we're going to have to pump up their egos. So let's figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I'm kind of sexist myself when it comes to hiring employees. If it's male or female, I'm hiring a female every time because she's gonna get all the stuff done on time. So again, men, if you if you unfollow me on Instagram because of that, I'm sorry, but it's
funny.
the truth.
My business partner's listening right now. If I were to say that, which is totally true, kick my ass because it's true. You try and go into interviews with no
Yeah.
preconceived notions like gender, age
Oh.
doesn't matter.
But
But
I know guys that they're just like fucking wing it. Let's go. Let's do it.
yeah.
That would never happen with a woman. She would have everything planned out. It's interesting. Yeah, as long as we can get the other side that you talked about up to par, I don't think men have a chance. To be honest, I don't think they compete.
I'm totally with you. Like I said, female owned every single time.
Yeah, the only thing that men have is we're delusional.
Yep, and delusion sells apparently.
Sometimes you fail miserably and work at 7-Eleven. No offense to anyone that works at 7-Eleven. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. So where does Jay see Otter, in the next, 5-10 years, or maybe you're just doing this for now and you're going to like maybe sell the company and you have a grand vision. Obviously we talked about that in the beginning. Where do you see the company going, and what do you have next for Jay by himself or maybe with a partner business-wise that's outside of Otter?
Sure. So let's start with Otter. We talk about this all the time. What is our dream with Otter? Where do we see it going? Obviously, we've built this amazing family that's been growing at a very fast rate, and we're very open to the idea of selling in the next 5 to 10 years. But we would love to be in multiple states. We would love to build the team up to 100 employees. We would love to be in 9 figures before we make that sale. And we're going to do that through a couple of ways. We want to be the dominant PR agency in this specific space, which is subject matter experts and small business, which I think PR in general has fallen short of. They're not serving those people the way that we have been. We also want to be the go-to resource for PR knowledge online. We're creating courses to train publicists. We're creating courses for people to do their own PR. That doesn't currently exist. So that's where we see it going, as well as adding SaaS to the PR. We're working on several different software projects that we hope to roll out in the next few years and then eventually exit.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that we talked about with medicine? What are some of the biggest misconceptions you see in PR?
So biggest misconception in PR is one, that you can't do it. A lot of people think that they don't have a good story that can get told and get pitched. And the other big misconception is people don't understand the difference between organic and inorganic media buying. People think that a lot of the stuff that they see online, featured in, as seen in, is all organic, that's earned. And it's not in most cases. Sometimes it is. Right. But that's, I think, opened the door for a lot of, not to say scammers, but people to go out and sell services and misrepresent those services. So that's huge misconception. Obviously, like I said, we do both. We're very transparent on both. But a lot of the media hype and social proof and credibility that people are showing, it isn't necessarily organic.
That's a good point because, that's a good point because if somebody comes to you, right, and maybe they have just their trust fund baby, right? They have a bunch of money, but they've never done anything. They haven't done shit. And they come to you like, Jay, listen, man, I like how I talked like a bro. Hey, Jay, listen, man, I want to start this new business. We need some publicity. Can you just write up some articles? Here's the money. I got a trust fund. I got 8 figures in the bank. Whatever it is, here's a blank check. Just get it done. I need 20 articles written. What can you do for me? Well, what would you say to someone like that?
So that's media buying. Of course, I can get those articles done for you. Here's how much it's going to cost per article. My writing team is going to do each one. Obviously, money talks. If you want to spend less than $500, you're getting a press release, and you can get to say, as featured on Fox, CBS, ABC, all the stuff that you're used to seeing on websites. You give us $10,000, that those logos look a little bit different. Now we're talking about Forbes. Now we're talking about Business Insider, Entrepreneur, real publications that look more real. The contributors taking a kickback. We're really pulling out our connections that can only do promotional pieces once per month for that person. So yes, money talks and media buying is real. It takes a while to build up those connections in the industry and utilize them, and they're limited. So it is a very scarce resource too, in most cases. And that's another thing people don't realize. A lot of times this is not unlimited. If you coming to me and you want a Forbes feature done, a feature article about you by a contributor, and there's 20 other people in line to do that, I can't pump those out all at once. That's very difficult to do. It's a very scarce resource. And I think that's what makes PR so valuable too. So when you see that opportunity in PR, you jump on it.
How important is PR? I feel like a lot of times the PR is kind of like it's kind of like a want than a need, right? And let me explain. So when you need something, right? When I come to you, I need a funnel built. I need you to run my ads. I don't know what's going on. We're losing money. I need you, Jay. Please, Jay, I need you, right? That's a need. That's almost like a guaranteed transaction right there, because that person is desperate. They view you as the expert. Please help me, Jay. I need you, right? With PR, it's not looked at as a need, I feel. And correct me if I'm wrong. It's looked at more as like an add-on, as a want. I want to be featured in Entrepreneur Magazine. I want to be featured in Forbes. But we all know that if you want to make more money, you need a better foundation. You need more credibility. You need to build more trust, whether it's being verified, whether it's they type your name on the first page of Google and it looks amazing. You have 20 top tier articles written about you. So we know it translates into dollars and ROI, but it's not laid out as, can you build me a funnel? Can you do the marketing for me and make me money? It's not like black and white. It's more of like a gray area. What would you tell those people that view it as a want versus a need? And
this is actually a really common question that we get on the sales end is, what is the ROI? How much money am I going to make from me doing these PR services with you? And just like you said, it's not like
I hope a lot of people see it.
Yeah. It's not like you throw $10 in, you get $10 out, like in a successful ad funnel. But if you want those funnels to be successful, you're going to have that social proof. You're going to have that credibility. When people Google Otter PR, if you're listening, Google Otter PR, see what you say. And that's the first thing people mention on the phone. I Googled you guys are legit. And no matter what your business is, no matter if you're operating as a sole proprietor, a course creator, people are going to Google you. You want Google to show something positive, and you want those landing pages, those sales pages to have social proof. So in that regard, having any form of PR, even the easy wins, is going to be a huge upside for you. So I think it's critical, especially with those low value, easy wins like a press release, can absolutely be worthwhile. If you're talking about, because PR is a big umbrella, a lot of things can be considered PR. For example, I'm going to be on Entrepreneurs on Fire, John Lee Dumas's show at the end of this month. A lot of that's PR. That's media exposure. And I know people who have done $500,000 from the sales pitch at the end of their episode on his show. And if you're getting booked on quality organic media outlets, then there's a lot of ROI that can be had for it, but it's never consistent. Obviously, we don't handle the back end. We don't know what the offer is. We don't know what the landing page is. That's not what we do on our end. So we don't know what they're going to get out from putting in. However, I do think it's critical for everybody to think about, even at starting stages, even as a startup. You need social proof. You need credibility. People are going to Google you. Work with a PR agency to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Jay, I could talk to you forever. You're one of my good friends, and you're going to be over on this side of the pond soon. We'll be right over the bridge, so you're not in Mickey Mouse land. So I ask everyone at the end of the show certain questions. So it's kind of rapid fire questions, real quick. So I'm going to ask you, if Jay has or has a superpower, what would that superpower be, or what is Jay's superpower?
Has or had. So if I actually had a superpower, I'd say it would be my ability to multitask on a million different projects at once and make them successful. So my business partner hates this about me and loves this about me, but I spit out ideas and businesses all over the place. And usually they end up sticking. I think we're at like 9 companies, products, and services that we do right now. And they're not perfect, but I'm able to consecutively do a lot of things. And I think that's because I work probably too much. And
you love it too. And you also value it. coming from where you were that you didn't value.
Yes, absolutely. And I have the ability to work on multiple assets of that business at the same time. The marketing end, the design end, the branding, the sales. I've become proficient enough at all of those avenues where starting a new business takes a weekend. And that's fun, especially when you have a good idea and you want to spin it up into a new product or a t-shirt or something like that. It's a blast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Get the guys on it. We need to write up a new funnel.
Yep, exactly. And I build the funnel too.
You built the funnel?
Yep. Build all the funnels.
Geez, your business partner must love you. You're putting in overtime over here at Otter PR. That's right, Otter PR. Again, guys, all the stuff is going to be in the show description below, so you don't have to memorize all this stuff. If Jay had a billboard for the rest of eternity, what would that billboard say?
If Jay had a billboard, man, these are hard questions.
Sorry, I had to put you on the spot.
What was your answer?
No one's ever asked me.
Justin, what does your billboard say?
I'm not qualified to answer that. I'm going to get back to you when we do a part 2.
Yeah, I'm going to get back to you on a part 2 as well. My billboard. Good. Yeah, that's the biggest egotistical question ever. What does your billboard say? God, I'm going to answer that for you guys next time.
And I can't say Jay's the best, but it could, maybe. It's up to you. You have the choice. The last question I have is, what books have you gifted besides your own, have you gifted to employees, friends, family, etc. in the past 5 years?
So the most recent one is John Lee Dumas's book, which I have a whole case of right here. All right, here we go. The Common Path to Uncommon Success. He sent me like 300 copies of his new book. Actually really good. Wow. So that's one I gave to the entire office. I'll bring a case back for you and whoever. Love that book. Oh, yeah. Also, a lot of audiobooks. So Russell Brunson's Secrets trilogy, Marketing Secrets, Traffic Secrets, and God, what was
I do like Traffic Secrets. Yeah, Traffic Secrets. We just bought that, and it's coming tomorrow. I'm going to read it real quick.
All three are gold. I think Traffic Secrets was my favorite, followed by Expert Secrets. But honestly, I've read all 3 of them twice. I'm on my 3rd round of Expert Secrets right now. Gold for anybody who's an entrepreneur, who's a marketer. I'm going to Funnel Hacking Live in November. Hope you're gonna join me with that one.
Yeah,
we got a hotel.
I'll be there.
He's brilliant.
I'll be there. Yeah, so I think if you're gonna buy a book, Russell's the guy because they have all the data. They know what works and what doesn't.
Oh yeah. He's the marketer of our generation. I think I love everything that he says and puts out, and he's genuine and he contextualizes it really well. So definitely books for everyone to pick up.
All right, guys. Well, you heard it here first, from Justin Caviar to J Feldman to Otter PR. You heard it to Jay's dog in the back. You heard it. And Jay, any last words?
We made it all the way to the end before the dog barked. I'm just very happy about that. That's Moses. For anyone listening, oh man, he's still going. Thank you for tuning in. I was great giving back to you. If you want to talk to me, best way is shoot me a message on Instagram at Dr Jay Feldman. Let me know that you heard me on this show. I'll be sure to respond and serve you the best I can. But Justin, can't thank you enough. You're an absolute blast. I'm excited to connect with you and dig deeper back in the West Coast.
I was gonna ask you, how do people contact you and connect with you? You already said that. What about if people want like updates, like a newsletter or something? Do you have like an email list that people can go to so that they can stay in the loop?
Yep. So the link in my bio has a subscription to my email list. You can also go on drjfeldman.com, subscribe there. Books are coming. Courses are coming. So definitely get subscribed and would love to keep giving you guys value.
And again, guys, you don't have to memorize this stuff. All this stuff is going to be in the show description below. But having said that, you all have a blessed day. We love you guys, and we're out.